My name is Ed Burtynsky. I travel around the world photographing industry and the effects of man's work on the landscape. We don't see where our materials come from and we don't see where they go. So I'm kind of interested in those histories. We have this period where we use that item and then it goes off somewhere else in the world to be recycled or to be dumped. So I'm kind of interested in those margins as a photographer and to bring those back into our consciousness. What we're looking at here is a very large coal field for the largest steel plant in China. It emits a lot of mercury, and this mercury kind of comes down into the landscape, and it's a persistent heavy metal in the landscape, so it doesn't go away. 20% of the mercury that lands on Canadian soil is from China. So if we think about whether we're connected to the events or to China, and we don't think we are, that we're somewhere else, then we must think again. This picture was taken in 2001, and it's a picture of the shipbreaking yards in Bangladesh. And it kind of looks like a ship, and then you say, well, why is it in the mud? And then you look at the side of it, and there's a big hole in the side of it as well. So you kind of realize that something is amiss here as an image. And the other thing is you get a chance when you look at that image is that there's three small figures in the foreground, and they were digging around through the muck with their hands trying to find pieces of scrap to try to raise some money or make some money for themselves with scrap metal. I print as large as I do because I really want the small details to become significant. So if in a picture it was an 8 by 10 image, for instance, and there was a ladder and it was 1/8 of an inch high. Now if I make that a 40 inch by 50 inch, that ladder is now maybe a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch high. And all of a sudden it's a significant detail versus an insignificant detail. And you can enter that frame and look at that and say, I see the ladder. Now I can see the scale of this place. It reveals the true dimensions of the place that you're looking at. Each one of these factories here is about 700 meters, so it's almost 1 kilometer long. This factory here makes the coffee makers. This whole plant here makes the irons. So this is about 6,000 employees here at this given time, but at its full production, they have about 21,000 employees. I like the idea that I'm not telling them how to see the picture, that there's a kind of an open narrative to it. So they can come in there, and I think somebody who's an environmentalist will look at it one way, and somebody who's art historian might look at it another way, an industrialist might look at it another way. And so there's these readings, I think, that people can enter into it, and that there are multiple readings, that it's not necessarily just to be read one way. When I started my work 25 years ago, I remember my mother saying, who'd be interested in these pictures and who would want these pictures and why do you go to these mines? Well, now I think it's becoming more clear what I was trying to do, even though I didn't fully understand it back then either. I just was compelled to make these pictures. But I think looking back at it today, that the strength of the work from back then is now coming into its own. It's touching into the zeitgeist of our time. And we're all kind of sensing that there's something going on here, and this 25-year body of work somehow begins to address that head on. And I think that's where the success is coming from.